record to the cloud and pray. So Hannah, apologies. So we had another person that was running these in the past, and we're punting a little bit here, but it is being recorded now. So I am going to start the webinar. Hello to everyone that's just jumping on. We're going to give folks a few more minutes. We're not quite at 12:30, so give folks just a couple of minutes to join before we get started today. If you're just joining, we're going to get started in about 2 minutes. I want to give everybody an opportunity to join that is logging in. So thank you for your patience. It looks like most folks are on, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to NCST's biweekly, or right now monthly, Community Impact Briefing. We're happy to have you with us today, especially given changing times in the US right now. So thank you for spending part of your day with us. You will notice that we have a face that's missing. Our president, Julia Gordon, is currently on assignment with President-elect Biden's transition team. She is on one of the agency review teams. We're thrilled to have her representation for both us and for you as a voice in that transition right now, and look forward to all of the work that's coming out of that team. With that, this morning we have a great speaker, and I'll turn it over to Raquel Reddy in just a moment to introduce her. Just as a reminder, all lines are muted. If you would like to ask a question or provide feedback, and there will be an opportunity to do that, you can either use the Q&A feature or raise your hand, and I'm happy to unmute your line. This call will be recorded and will be available on our website along with our guest speaker's presentation after the call. And with that, Raquel, I will turn it over to you to introduce.
Great, thank you, Erin. And hello and welcome to everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Hannah Hearn with Working Films. Hannah Hearn is an impact coordinator with Working Films, and in her current role, she's dedicated to coordinating the impactful documentary film campaigns, not only locally, but also nationally. And I got a chance to get to know Hannah and Working Films in the summertime during one of the Zoom conferences that I'm sure we've all been attending. And I'm really delighted that she has agreed to present today to our team of partners. So with that, I'd like to introduce Hannah, and please go ahead and begin your presentation.
All right, so everyone should be able to see my screen. Thanks, Raquel and Erin, so much. I'm super excited to be here and share a little bit about the work that Working Films is doing, and share also about the film campaign that was part of that Florida Housing Conference that me and Raquel got connected through. So my name is Hannah Hearn, and like Raquel said, I'm an impact coordinator at Working Films. I've been with Working Films for a little over 2 years now, and I am based in Wilmington, North Carolina. And my pronouns are she and her. And Working Films is a national nonprofit organization. We are a 501c3, and we use the power of documentary films to advance social justice and environmental protection. So I'll first start off by saying that we don't make films. That's a common misconception. As our name says, we put films to work. So we make sure that documentaries that have the potential to make an impact are in the hands of those who are best suited to make that happen. We exist to resource filmmakers and organizations to enable them both to reach critical audiences to make change. And we believe in using the right media at the right moment to move the dial on the most pressing issues of our time. So the way that we work is we are responsive to the needs of movement, who we resource with stories, and we deploy them at key policy and regulatory moments to move the dial a little closer to progress. So we have three components of our work, and I'm going to focus mostly on the first one today. But we believe in the power of film to both inform audiences and also inspire and motivate them to take action on the different issues in which we work. So the first area that I'll talk about is that we organize with films. And the way that we do this is we will curate collections or, if you will, compilations of films that translate and make connections across complex issues like immigration and climate change and environmental justice. And we listen to the needs and the priorities of organizers and activists and communities that are most impacted to inform what these compilations will look like, what goes into the compilations, and then also how we tour those compilations and pair them with meaningful discussions across the United States. And then our second category within which we work is that we provide funding and technical support to underrepresented filmmakers. We have a couple of programs where we do provide those funds, and we provide strategy to the campaigns of documentary films. And then the third bucket of work is that we build the field of the documentary industry. So we will share our learning and foster dialogue to further the field of documentary for change. We lead conversations and trainings with nonprofits to ensure that nonfiction media is increasingly embraced as a critical resource for their strategies for social change. And again, we have a specific program for that as well, called Putting Films to Work. And you can learn more about that on our website. And I will share all the information about our website at the very end, and then also about the specific film campaign that I'm going to talk about. So these are our film-driven organizing campaigns. I'll talk very, very briefly about each one. So the first one we have is called Stories Beyond Borders, which is 5 films to spark action for immigrant justice. And we began this compilation when family separations were getting really highlighted in the media, and more people were paying attention to the issue. So with this compilation, we really wanted to tell a different story of immigration and show that separations weren't only happening at the border. We wanted to show that immigrants were not always Latinx, and we wanted to shed a light on the different ways in which immigrants in the US are harmed. So that began about a couple years ago now. Time is all a blur, but yeah, I believe it. We started it a couple years ago, and we've been touring it across the US, both in person and virtually, and pairing it with speakers and panel discussions and community discussions about the issue, and then using the films as a catalyst to motivate people to act. And then our second compilation that we have live right now is the one that we presented on that Florida Housing Conference. And this one's called Revisioning Recovery, which is 5 films uncovering the roots of disaster. And it's also the campaign that I'm going to focus on most today. And I'll be sharing a couple of the films from that campaign as well. But Revisioning Recovery, we began this project at the end of last year. And we have also been touring it virtually and in person, mostly virtually, because we started screenings at the very beginning of this year. And then, of course, the pandemic hit in March. But Revisioning Recovery illuminates the inequities that are exacerbated when climate disasters hit. And we wanted to tell, or we wanted to show underrepresented stories, and we wanted to educate people about the fact that Black and Brown communities, low-income communities, undocumented residents, people with disabilities, and older adults are typically the last ones to be able to recover due to lack of access to resources, and due to systemic inequities that exist even before a disaster hits. And then our last compilation is actually one that we are trying to create now. We have a call for media open where we'll accept short films to amplify abolition. So abolition of the prison industrial complex. And again, I'll share all the information about that afterwards as well. But Revision and Recovery is, like I said, a compilation of 5 short films. These are all of the films here, and they cover everything from how racist systems promote inequities before, during, and after disasters. There's one that focuses on climate gentrification. There is one that looks at people with disabilities and their needs before, during, and after disasters hit. There's one that focuses on community organizing against toxic industrial polluters. And then the last one is about Puerto Rico, and it looks at youth organizers there who are fighting for their community's needs. And so now I want to show a couple of the films. I'm going to show Raising Liberty Square, which is the one about climate gentrification. And I'm also going to show The Sacrifice Zone, which looks at the Ironbound community, which is situated right next to these big industrial polluters. And that one focuses on the Ironbound Community Corporation, which is fighting back against those harmful corporate industries. And so I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'm going to start another screen share with the films.
This is my house where I grew up, 1209 Northwest 64th Street. That was my bedroom window right there. There was a tree. Mom always planted, all of this was trees, and she always planted trees and flowers wherever she was. This is me in front of the mango tree.
Cherries and mulberries and almonds and guavas. It was like
Avocados.
a paradise. If you went away, you went downtown or you went on an errand, your house, you left your door unlocked. This was the kind of community that we had. Those were golden days, you know, golden days.
Singing glory, hallelujah.
So this was like a haven, and it was a pleasure to live in the project.
Liberty Square was family.
As a child, we didn't know we were poor because we had such a rich life.
The neighborhood hotel became the social center of the South. Muhammad Ali had his victory party in this very cafe where I'm sitting when he beat Sonny Liston. Dr. Martin Luther King stayed here, Malcolm X, Jackie Robinson, Nancy Wilson stayed here. You know, that we could just go on with the names of celebrities who, when they performed on Miami Beach, could not live there. They had to come in the black community.
When Liberty Square was initiated in October of 1936, the wall was the message of breaking off of this neighborhood from the surrounding neighborhood, which was white on the other side. Segregated housing left black communities largely underserved. No political representation whatsoever. So you have, oftentimes very poor electrical services, very poor water management, almost no green space to speak of, underrepresentation in terms of educational questions, and that leads to, again, a sense of disempowerment. The riots that emerged here in the 1960s, and again in the 80s, multiple times, that problem was set in motion as early as the late 1930s with Liberty Square being in place. The concentration of poverty is really what then contributes further to the problems that the neighborhood faces in terms of drug and vice industries, in terms of liquor stores, again in terms of overall danger to young people.
A former Miami Northwestern senior high student shot and killed.
4 people shot.
The area has become known for its drug use and gun violence.
Miami's most dangerous neighborhood.
Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez announcing major plans for the revitalization of Liberty Square
Rising, the largest public housing redevelopment project to date.
When I heard that they were demolishing Liberty Square, half at it, go for it. Something needs to be done. But you aren't gonna move out the residents of Liberty Square, and then when you get the brand new building, then we get yuppies.
Yep.
Everybody else comes back in.
Nobody's gonna get moved out. We're gonna keep our promises. We're gonna keep our promise. And also the developer, you're gonna keep your promise.
We're going to allow all of the families that are currently residing in Liberty Square to, number one, stay in the development as we do the construction, and number two, to be able to come back to the development and to the new units once they're built. We believe that this development is special. It's got a special historical significance, but it's special in the sense that also we have the ability to take something that is very, very challenged and make it into something that is going to be exceptional.
Pastor is like the Pied Piper. He goes through the neighborhood, toots the horn, and whoever comes on board, they're welcome.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, haven't seen you in ages. How many of you guys in here feel that you're special? Everyone should raise their hands. There's greatness in each and every one of you. Kids of Liberty Square, the kids of our community, the whole Liberty Square project, that we see Liberty Square rising up out of the ashes.
The buildings are coming along very well. So we're trying to figure out if Joshua's going to get his own room. What color you want your room to be?
Blue.
And what else? Just blue? You don't want the gray?
No, I want the whole thing gray.
You want the whole thing gray? There goes Miss Music.
Yes.
Gray and what else? I need to know so I can start getting stuff.
I'm a firm believer of mixed income development and breaking up concentrated poverty, allowing, kids to see just an influx of, middle income earners, and not just like, fortunately for those in Liberty Square, where everyone's essentially poor, and that's not motivating.
This is like a really impactful image just to see the two sides, like what is and what it is to be, or what's to come. It's, yeah.
And I'm not saying this because I work for the firm. I am impressed with our plan. We're talking about micro units for small businesses so that they can actually grow and flourish and build new recreational facilities, new educational facilities, healthcare facilities, all within these 9 square blocks. I mean, you're making a mini city within itself with all the services that are needed.
As we did with the first phase of development, we'll rehab an empty unit that's comparable to what you have currently in size. We'll fix it up to make it look nice, transfer you in, and at the end of construction, we'll move you back over to the new site. But you do have options on the table for Section 8 vouchers now that they become available. And so what we wanted to do is give you a rundown on what that process is going to look like in terms of, relocation, timeline, and what you can expect.
I am from the Miami-Dade voucher program. You choose where you want to live. You guys have special perks. That's not something that's normal to our program. We're gonna go ahead and you pay your security deposit, first and last month's rent. The contractors are also gonna be paying your move. And if you wanna come back, they're gonna pay for your expenses to come back.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? You see that they say that now?
They say that, but then it'd be a whole different scenario.
Story.
And I'm a previous resident of Scott Projects, and they had the same option, and they gave all these people transferred, and after 1 year, those people lost their vouchers, and these people became homeless.
The only problem to go back is if there's a violation to a family obligation. So if you're evicted, then that would be the only problem that you wouldn't be able to return.
Take it home, ponder about it, think about what's the best decision for you.
This is not Aaron speaking on behalf of Related Urban. This is Aaron speaking as a resident of Liberty City, a lifelong resident of Liberty City. I still live here. What I would hate to see happen, folks flee the area, never make their way back in, and then the cultural fabric of Liberty City is somewhat lost. The curveball is now vouchers are available.
They want to put that bug in your ear and get you to thinking, well, if you get this voucher right now, you good. You ain't got to sit around and wait. You ain't got to be moved from here to there and move back over there and wait this much longer for your apartment to be built.
And they don't have to deal with you guys as residents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then once they give out all the vouchers and all us is gone, they're gonna move
make
in.
Money.
Everybody
It turns to profit. Now this area here, in a few years, this is going to be prime property.
Oh yeah.
We're starting to see developers who have historically only did business on the beach or in affluent communities are now coming in and fighting over housing projects that sit smack dab in the middle of our city. When they came to build Miami, they wanted it to be like this beachfront paradise for Northeast snowbirds to come in and enjoy. So what they did was push the people of color, black folks, to the middle of the city, which sits on a ridge.
People are tired of the sea level rise. They want the high ground. When Liberty City had the riots and nobody wanted to go there, they stayed and they saw their community through, and now we want to displace them? That's climate gentrification, because the reason for gentrification is elevation. And the reason that matters is climate.
Miami is ground zero for sea level rise. We are the example of climate gentrification. When I was a child, my grandfather always would say, they're gonna come take Liberty City because we don't flood.
We are disproportionately polluted upon because of the zip code we reside in and the color of our skin.
If you look at statistics for this area, you will see the number of children who suffer from asthma, who have to use respirators to breathe.
We have an exploding population of children with autism.
My youngest son suddenly came down with some really strange rash.
My mother-in-law died of breast cancer. The lady down the street, she had breast cancer. My father died of cancer. And we all live down here.
Hello?
Hello, I'm looking for Maria Lopez, please.
This is Maria Lopez.
Hi, Maria. My name is Hader Camargo. I'm with the NJDEP.
Yes, I'm with the Ironbound Community Corporation, and I am the director of the Department of Environmental Justice and Community Development.
Is that a city organization, or is that?
We're a community-based nonprofit.
Oh, you're a community-based nonprofit. Okay,
About a week and a half ago, we had an anonymous call that said that there was a chemical spill at the site that was not being addressed appropriately.
All right, sounds
So I think it's something that the DEP should investigate.
You're about to see things that people go out of their way not to see. On this tour, I want us to look at the practices of what a so-called advanced country does. Every day you flush the toilet, every day you turn on water, you expect it to come out, every day you turn on the lights and you expect it to illuminate the room. But we don't think about how does it happen. It's taken for granted. I live in an advanced society, you know, click. So this is about getting into the underneath of how does our society run, who does it work for, and who is harmed in the process.
So this is the Ironbound neighborhood. What I want you to think about is this combination of residential and industrial being right next to each other. There's no buffer. The Ironbound is a mostly immigrant community. along with a long-standing African American population.
We're the ones that live with the impacts of the waste infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, the impacts of mass consumption.
The Ironbound is surrounded by the major transportation arteries of this region. The Port of Newark is the third largest port in the country. It's adjacent to Newark Airport. So if you're buying anything, whether it be at the dollar store, at Macy's, it probably came through the neighborhood of the Ironbound on a truck. Then we have Doremus Avenue, also known as Chemical Corridor. That has the Passaic Waste Sewage Treatment Plant, the Fat Rendering Plant, the Natural Energy Center, garbage incinerator. There's just so many things in a concentrated area that's less than a mile from where all the residents are. We can't just have everything that hurts human health be located in one place next to one type of people, because that's discriminatory, that's racism, that's classism.
The East Coast is being pummeled with the power of a record-breaking superstorm.
During Superstorm Sandy, what we did have was the Passaic River, one of the most toxic river bodies in the country, if not the most toxic, taking its fully contaminated waters into Ironbound, so that the homes that were flooded weren't just flooded with waters, but with toxic waters. The Passaic Valley Sewage Treatment Authority, which is the third largest in the country, that was flooded so bad, they decommissioned it. We were emitting into the Newark Bay raw sewage for months on end.
The Ironbound used to be Meadowlands, nature's buffer against like sea level rise and storms. But instead, Newark is 90% concrete. If it's a 10-minute rain or a summer rain, our sewer system can't handle it and it actually backs up into the street. Look at that on the sides. What? Are you kidding me? What? I really, look at that. No. Ooh. Okay, is that exciting for those of you who are sleeping? Look at you. Now you smiled, yeah? Finally.
Smile's a natural disaster.
There's water coming in the bus right now, everybody. If you want to know how deep.
Yeah, there is. People think you need a hurricane to do this. We don't. We just need a day full of rain. Look at that. This is a problem, and not everyone lives this way, okay? We're seeing record rainfall all over the country now. So what's gonna happen in communities like this? We need a plan for what happens when all these things get flooded out, or if the weather and the flooding causes one of these drums to spill. What's the evacuation plan?
25 tornadoes hit 5 states yesterday across the country. And there was also
the storms were intense, driving, damaging winds, uprooting trees, whiteout snow, and powerful wind gusts topping 60.
There's this perception that things will not hit us. And I think it's going to take a while for people's worldview to catch up with the realities of climate change. These extreme weather events are more commonplace, which is why we've been fighting for our community's right to know what the emergency plan is.
The way we've been going, we can't go that way anymore. There's a cliff, right? We're going over the cliff. And the just transition is about, no, let's try building a society that doesn't have to poison its environment in order to have a good quality of life. It's a little bit shorter.
Bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. Bring it up. Woo. Okay, let it go, Mr. Norton. The just transition is a wider framework of trying to move from an extractive economy to a regenerative one. We're trying to move away from fossil fuels, where we're always in reciprocity with the earth. As we create trash, we compost. As we take, we give back. Hey, Matt. So excited you made it.
I finally made it out.
This is our farm. That's the farmer's market. So if you want to get your goods, they leave at 7. Hola. Yeah, they leave at 7. And then we'll start our cookout. I would love for this to not be our job. I would actually love a future in which my job is irrelevant. But when I think about the concentration of pollution in this neighborhood and the children that are growing up in this, I don't have a choice. It's a hard job, but I would have to sever my life completely and get rid of my humanity in order to give up. To not keep going would be to leave my community behind or to give up on them in a way that I don't feel my community's giving up on me. Hey, you want to help us?
All right. So that was only a couple films from the compilation. This is our website if you want to learn more about that film campaign. So it's just workingfilms.org/revisioning-recovery. And I will also chat it in the chat box here. At our normal website, where you can find all our other projects, is just workingfilms.org. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. I know we're running out of time, so I do want to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Hannah. Great films and super relevant, especially with all of the talk of.
Oh no, Erin, I think you're frozen.
She is. I'll just pick up. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
As Erin gets back on, I'll just say, and I'll share this with everyone, that, you know, watching the compilation again today, Hannah, it affected me the same way when I first watched it. And it's just to say that, you know, we have so many stories, right? So many stories. We have partners across this country that are doing the hard work of building back neighborhoods and families. And so it just goes to show that it is very impactful when you can see your work in this way, in terms of documentary film. And so these compilations, I think, are just one way to, again, share each and every one of our stories with all stakeholders in our communities. Erin, I see you're back.
Sorry about that. I guess this is what happens when you're doing distance learning and working at the same time, which I'm sure many of you can appreciate, is that you lose internet every once in a while. So Hannah, this is great. I think super impactful right now, as Raquel was just saying. I caught the tail end of that, and so relevant with relationship to climate change and other things. How do you envision your organization being able to work with our buyer community?
Yeah, so Revisioning Recovery, like I said, we've been touring it across the US virtually now until we're able to convene in person safely again. But yeah, we envision this compilation really as a resource for folks to be able to use it in their work in whatever way makes sense. So we've had organizations and organizers and activists use it to kind of catalyze discussions, you know, sort of reinvigorate some of their bases that they have already. We see these films really, yeah, as a jumping point to start these conversations. So with your buyers and the work that they're doing, you know, for example, an event could look like you watch the films, and then you come together and reflect on your work. and share any information that needs to be shared.
That's great. I'm not sure if folks have any questions. I know that one of our buyers, and I believe he is on the call today, Ian Beniston. Ian, I'm not sure. I'm going to allow you to talk here. I'm not sure if you're willing. I'm hoping that you are. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but I know that you've also done some great work with films and would be interested in your addition to this conversation, because telling these stories, whether the way we just saw or the way that your organization is doing, I think is so important here as we take steps forward.
Hey, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sorry, it took me a second there, but yeah, I'm by no means an expert in storytelling or filmmaking. I think, Aaron, you probably know, I've kind of fell into this, at least with the recent documentary, more by chance, just given the amount of interaction I have with people all over the place in a network. In 2016, I met a reporter for PBS NewsHour who came to Youngstown to do a story. And from that interview, you know, which was a typical national news interview, a couple minutes where everything's reduced to a quick soundbite, kind of met the reporter. She got very interested in what we were doing in Youngstown. Ultimately decided to make a documentary film, which is now currently being streamed online through the Doc NYC Film Festival. It's called The Place That Makes Us. So, you know, when I agreed initially to be a part of that, it was largely for, you know, a lot of the reasons that have been talked about here, to create exposure for the work that we do at the Youngstown Neighborhood Development Corporation. Also for people throughout this country to see Youngstown perhaps in a different way, which I think exemplifies a lot of the communities throughout the industrial Midwest and Great Lakes. And, you know, I know from spending time in other areas of the country, often there's perceptions of these places that are not accurate. So ultimately, the film turned out much different than I would have thought, in that it, you know, it followed my life as well as the life of a young council person, Julius Oliver, and kind of told the story of our work and what's happening in Youngstown through that venue, also showing the challenges, but at the same time, the incremental progress that we're making, as well as contrasting some of the generational change. You know, if you've seen the film, you know that my father was a fourth generation steel worker. You know, that's not an opportunity that I had here, whether I wanted it or not. So kind of shows a change in mindset and how things are beginning to slowly shift in the city and in the region here. Also, I think for us, it was just a great showcase of our work. If you watch the film, you'll see a land bank house that's followed, the renovation of it's followed, as well as one of our housing counseling clients who ultimately buys that vacant property and continues to live there with their family. So you know, that's part of many ways that we tried to share our story here in Youngstown. That happened kind of organically. It's not like we sought the filmmakers out, but I think it happened also just by us routinely trying to get the word out and telling our story, whether that be through the local news, in this case, the national news, just talking to, just like today, anyone that is willing to listen to what we have to say.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And thanks, David. For all of the folks that are attending, David went ahead and put the link to The Place That Makes Us in the chat. We will also include that on our website if it's not already there. Really excited about possibilities for all of you to get your story told, and NCST is happy to be instrumental in that, however we might be able to be helpful. I'm not seeing any questions, but really appreciate your willingness to show us the great work that your organization is doing and help us think about telling stories in different ways. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, y'all. And I just pasted my email in the chat box if anybody does have any questions later on, or if you just want to learn more about our work.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.
All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and move our call into our policy briefing. David Sanchez, our Director of Research and Development, is going to take over from here. David?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today, and thanks again to Hannah for that great presentation. I am, filling in for Julia today, who, as Aaron announced earlier, is going to be temporarily on leave, helping out with the Biden-Harris transition team, and we're just so excited, that her perspective is going to be part of those plans. So after the election, the national political landscape is beginning to take shape. Which party is going to control the Senate is not yet decided, and will be subject to basically two runoffs that are currently happening in Georgia. And I think the outcomes there not only will determine who controls the Senate for the next 2 years, but also I think will help set the level for the level of ambition that the Biden-Harris administration is likely to display on appropriation-related matters. So we'll know more about that in mid-January, at least with any hope. And while the president himself has not conceded the election yet, the general consensus is that despite his bluster, ultimately the consensus is that his bluster isn't going to be relevant. What is relevant is that the GSA, or the General Services Administration here in DC, has not yet ascertained the winner of the election, which is a technical term that means they have not officially let the Biden-Harris transition team begin its work of meeting with agency staff. So that is certainly something that is slowing down the Biden-Harris transition. But despite that, the team has been very busy meeting with other stakeholders and racing to put together the preliminary plans for how it's going to approach running the federal government come January. So in terms of the priorities, obviously the first priority for a lot of people in Washington, and NCST is one of them, is having a strong COVID stimulus package. Things like emergency rental assistance, homeowner assistance fund, which helps struggling homeowners reinstate their mortgages. Those things are critical, as you've heard about before from us a number of times. There's some optimism here in Washington that those measures might move sooner, being tied to funding the federal government for the next year. There's talk of an omnibus or a cromnibus for those of us who, that would be a combination of an omnibus appropriations bill and a continuing resolution. So absent that, I do think that we expect the Biden administration to make a strong push for stimulus early on in its time in power, if we're not able to get a significant number of those measures advanced in conjunction with the continuing resolution. In terms of another urgent priority, we know that it's a part of the work that Julia set out to do is working on foreclosure prevention, making sure that the incoming administration has a full hand or is fully aware of the challenges that will be coming as people exit forbearances and look for options to reinstate and begin paying their mortgages again. In terms of longer term priorities, we know a few things about what the upcoming administration is likely to focus on. We know one is, I think there's likely to be a renewed emphasis on fair housing, including some pretty quick actions to reverse rules that were propagated during the Trump administration on both affirmatively furthering fair housing and the disparate impact standard. And many observers also expect the Biden administration to place a significant emphasis on minority homeownership and Black homeownership in particular, although the details of what that will look like, I think, are yet to be determined. We have a couple other promising signals from the Biden administration in terms of what they're interested on. The campaign included the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act in its platform, and we know that especially if there's an opportunity to do a larger tax bill or infrastructure bill, the Biden administration would be strongly supportive of including NEA in that package. The presidential platform also called for a $10 billion cities revitalization fund based at HUD, which would essentially be the next generation of a place-based initiative taken by HUD to revitalize distressed and middle neighborhoods across the country. The last thing that I'll highlight is that there was a little noticed reference in the Biden housing platform to NCST's core specialty, which is of course REO disposition. And the way that they went at this was they called for an expansion of the HUD's Good Neighbors Next Door program, which allows first responders and teachers opportunities to acquire REO in particular neighborhoods at a discounted price. That is, of course, a small program, but it signals, we think, a willingness of the Biden-Harris administration to focus more closely on REO disposition and on all of the programs that we work with you, our partners, on. There's still a lot to learn about what the priorities will be and who the personnel that will be involved in implementing those priorities. We're, of course, going to be closely monitoring that during Julia's absence and also after she returns next month. So we'll be keeping you guys updated, and we thank you for your interest in NCSD's policy work, and I look forward to any questions or feedback that the group has to offer. Thanks.
Thanks so much, David. Questions from anyone? We're happy to take those. As we sort of conclude today, we're also looking for some feedback from all of you. So as we look into 2021 to continue these calls, we're looking at the best way to do that and what's going to be the most impactful and meaningful for your business. So Raquel Reddy is going to put some questions in our chat. We're also going to be sending out a survey to folks, and I know that your community development managers are going to be reaching out to you to get calls about how we should be moving forward with what we believe will be monthly calls in 2021. But we would really like to understand whether you prefer this format where we have a guest come and then we give our policy updates, or whether you would like more of a chat, a true Zoom chat where we can all see each other, maybe do it in small regional groups. So, looking for your feedback on how to do that. The other piece that we're kind of wondering is, given the spike across many states in the country of COVID, we're wondering how or if that is impacting your business in any way. I know when we were at the beginning of this back in March, we saw some shutdowns to construction, ability to get permits and things. Really interested in understanding if we're going back to that in your areas. So if you're willing to share, please feel free to raise your hand, add information in the chat. That would be fantastic. And as I'm waiting for folks to want to share, which I'm sure all of you will, I want to give a quick spoiler alert for our December 2nd conversation. We have got some NCST buyers that are going to be sharing some innovative housing solutions, and you definitely are not going to want to miss that. Raquel, any progress on, oh, here we go.
I just got it out, I'm sorry.
No problem at all. Raquel, do you want to take over for just a second and talk a little bit more about what the community development team is working on?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, getting back to these calls and, really trying to engage with our buyer community and our partner community, just our full community of supporters and folks that participate with us, is having this opportunity to, at least hear from you, you hear from us. Going into 2021, one of the things we're looking at is actually making this more of a monthly call. And in doing so, we wanted to have a better understanding of what format really works best. For some, being on Zoom and being able to see everyone is a little bit more engaging, as well as, those Zoom meetings that you'll attend where you're being presented to. Obviously, there are pros and cons to both, but we want to hear from you. We want to make this as valuable as we can for everyone that participates. And so we have, I know COVID doesn't have a lot of great things to it, but it certainly has, I think, brought us closer as a community, and really forced us to look at how do we, at least in the beginning of the year, back in the springtime, forced us to really take a look at how do we keep in contact with buyers when we can't really get out and see you as often. I know I certainly miss that. So we just want to hear from you. We want to see, what we can do to help make this as valuable for everyone. I did put the questions in the chat. We are also looking to do more of a formal survey that you'll see, and probably this week. If not, it'll be after the holidays, but we do want to hear back from as many folks as we can to make a decision on that. Stephanie, quick, I see you're in. I don't know if you have a question. Let me just see. You have your hand raised.
She does.
Yes,
Stephanie, I have unmuted your line. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Stephanie Quick from Renew Indianapolis. I just wanted to comment on both the format of the meetings and what we're currently experiencing. Just in regards to the format of the meetings, I absolutely love the current format. If you do go to monthly, the presentations that you currently have, this is absolutely helpful. The presentation today, we're currently looking to do some videos internally just to make here in Indianapolis, make folks aware of what we do, who we are, and what we do in a much broader way. And we're looking to do it via videos. So that was very helpful. It's oftentimes it's exactly some things that we're thinking about. You all end up presenting on it. So so these things have been very helpful. The gentleman from I think he's from Ohio. He touched on, I think he said that he had a land bank property where someone either built or rehabbed a home and now they're living in it. We have some very similar scenarios. So I just like smiled when he was talking about that, because that's exactly the stories that we want to tell in some of our videos. So I would, if I had to vote, I would say let's continue to do it this way if that's possible, and include presenters if we can. And if it's monthly going forward, then I would be happy to see that as well. So thank you. I appreciate the things that you're doing. And then just in regards to the atmosphere here in Indianapolis right now, we do continue to see positive activity. We do still continue to have showings. A lot of folks continue to have great interest in our properties. Showings have not slowed down. One thing that has slowed down, again, is permitting. That has, for some reason, slowed down quite a bit. Here in Indianapolis, I'm sure it's taking place around the country right now. Our governor and mayor, they have taken a step back, and our schools are going back to virtual. Our office, we did have some folks who were working in the office. We've now closed our office again, and we now only have maybe 2 employees who are working in the office. So so that's changing just a bit as well. Then as far as closings, we have about 4 closings in the pipeline right now. However, with the spike in COVID cases, it's also a spike in our buyers as well. We've had, out of the 4, 2 of our buyers have tested positive for COVID and have pushed our closings due to that. So it's definitely hitting close in a number of ways. So that's just some of the effects that we're seeing here locally in Indianapolis.
Really appreciate your feedback, Stephanie. And it's so hard right now. I know I look at cases here in Minnesota where I am on a daily basis, and they keep going up, and it sounds like things are going to get shut down here in a second. So, you know, tough situation around the country right now. And we can only pray that those vaccines are sooner rather than later so that everybody can get back to work.
Exactly.
In terms of what we're seeing in the chat right now, it looks like folks do like the current format. What I would ask is that as the survey comes out, you participate in that survey. One of the things that I know that we'll be asking is what you want to hear. So as we have, speakers that we're trying to line up for upcoming calls, we want to know what's going to be meaningful and helpful for your business. How can we add additional value? So please be sure to watch for that survey and answer. And then Jamila did add that hearing buyers' stories would be great periodically. Perfect lead into our end of our call today, because December 2nd is when that's going to happen. So I've seen some of the pre-work that our buyers are doing with some innovation. It's fantastic. And I know that they're going to be great sharing with you all. And if you're interested in being part of that, please reach out to your community development manager if you've got something that you think is fantastic and want to make sure that it's highlighted. We've got our stories from the field, as well as definitely our community development managers are here to help with that. David, Raquel, anything else from either of you before we conclude our call today?
I don't have anything else, just thank you.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining today. Thanks again to our guest, Hannah Hearn from Working Films. Please be sure to visit their website to see more of her work, as well as the work that our Youngstown group has been doing. Be sure to look at on the films, The Place That Makes Us. It's a fantastic film, and we really are thrilled that they were able to be highlighted. Hope the rest of you have a fantastic couple of weeks here before we talk in December. And I think that's it. Have a great day. Bye now.